From the Outer Banks Voice, I'm Sam Walker. As part of our election 2018 coverage, we've teamed with the Currituck Chamber of Commerce for a series of conversations with the candidates running in Currituck County. In this video, we'll talk with the gentleman seeking the Republican nomination for at-large county commissioner, incumbent Mike Hall and challenger Kevin McCord. All right, Mike, you want to go first?
My name is Mike Hall and I'm running for the office of Commissioner, Currituck County Commissioner at Large. And that means that I cover the whole county, which means I don't have just a township, I have the whole county to worry about and deal with the citizens, and I look forward to that. I've been doing it for 4 years now. And what I've enjoyed about it is I get to meet these folks, I get to talk to them, I get to see the problems, whether it's walking the beaches of the Outer Banks to look at storm damage or possible things for tourism, to coming over to Moyac to looking at the drainage problems that we have, or the future of businesses and growth, lower Currituck. I have tried, and I think we've succeeded in proportionate residential development. And what I mean by that is, folks, we need to slow it down. We need to have a mix between businesses and houses to diversify our tax base. We have a 4-lane highway on the mainland. We need to start putting businesses on it. Take some of the pressure off of the Outer Banks. The Outer Banks we need to take and worry about how do we keep tourists coming back year after year. And that's what I have succeeded in doing. We've kept our tax base low, we've kept our citizens happy, the tourists are returning, and that's what I plan on doing the next 4 years if you re-elect me.
Kevin?
I'm Kevin McCord, 30-year plus resident of Currituck County. Went to high school here. All 4 of my kids, still have 1 left in high school here. Married to my wife, Christy McCord. She works local for Howard Hanna. I'm a business owner. I've owned McCord's Landscaping for 11 years. I am a detective at the Sheriff's Department. I have been employed with the Sheriff's Department since 2001. From a patrolman to civil process, and I've been a detective for roughly 3 years now. I work property crimes. I like helping people. It's probably why I put my name back in the hat to run for commissioner. I'm a previous commissioner. 2012, I was successful in one. I've had a lot of people contact me and didn't like the way a few things are going here in the county and asked me to run again, so I decided to throw my name in the hat. I've been a public servant since the early age of 20 for the county. I'm 43, so 23 years. I've coached 80 Parks and Rec teams in the county. I've served on Mental Health Board, Parks and Rec Board, other boards I can't think of at this time, as well as like I said, just doing mentoring youth and so forth. I care about this county, and that's why I'm running again. And hopefully I'll have the privilege to serve you for 4 years.
All right, well, let's start with residential growth. And Mike, first, you mentioned that in your opening statement. How, after your 4 years on the board, how can we, you as a commissioner, manage to balance the new with the old here in Currituck County? We talk so much about all the new growth we have. Balancing that with what Currituck is known for and what people come to Currituck for, and balance that with the ever-expanding population and residential growth that we have.
When I came on, I inherited 3,600 houses that could be built in Currituck. I couldn't stop. I looked at it, and that's one of the reasons I ran, is because we were just becoming a land bank for houses, but we weren't doing compatible businesses. What I've done is, with the other commissioners, but mostly myself, I'll say here, is we need to slow it down. We need to look at lot size. We need to look at why they're building. There's an area right behind the library on Tulse Creek Road. Originally it was slated for 1,100 homes. They were already pre-approved before I came on the board. We now have less than that, just barely at 400. That's how you take and do it. You look and you talk to the builders, find out what they want, what they try to accomplish. You try to increase the lot size so they can have density, but they can also make a profit. With the new ones that are coming in, we've approved very few houses since I've come on the board, new lots. We try to talk to them again, whether it's an area that's wetlands, whether it's an area that they can build that's a field. We try to get them not to take down trees. We have open space. Open space is very big for a neighborhood. So it's very important to keep those balances in there, and that keeps the densities down.
Kevin?
As far as any residential growth in the county, I believe in smart growth. I know in the early 2010 times, they kept saying to get more businesses, we needed rooftops. We've gotten those now, and Moyak's had a lot. I know the building on the south end of the county's picked up a little bit, which is a good thing, because it was a little stagnant for a while. But any type of growth, I mean, you just need to, whatever you're bringing in, you know, if a property owner wants to sell his 100 acres to a developer, you know, you need to look at how it affects the surrounding areas, you know, the neighbors, the drainage, all that kind of stuff. I have the landscaping background, so, you know, as far as, I'm not an engineer, obviously, but, you know, how, you know, you affect the people that live beside you, you know, as far as the runoff and all that stuff. There is some major drainage issues in Moyock. There has been for quite some time that it hasn't been corrected. So that's something, which is not all the county, some of that falls on the state as well, that I think needs to be addressed. But like you said, I'm for property rights. You know, if somebody wants to sell their property to put a subdivision in that to a developer, as long as it's smart growth and you look at it and, you know, not try to put 500 homes on a 20-acre piece of property. I mean, like I said, I don't want to change the history of this county that I grew up in, you know, as well as, you know, keep it to that smart growth, I guess would be the best way to say it.
How do you feel like you could do that, getting back on the board? What do you think you could do differently than has been done over the last 4 years or 6 years?
Any project, whatever it is, whether it be a commercial project, a residential project, I think everything needs to be a case-by-case basis. You know, the county's had opportunity to do other, you know, some business that they told business no. You know, solar farms. I know they put a ban on those. I'm not some solar farm advocate. I don't have a solar farm tattoo on my arm or nothing like that. But, you know, if somebody owns a piece of property and they want to do something with it, as long as it doesn't affect surrounding people, you know, I don't have a problem with it. But I think everything that's done needs to be looked at case by case. If you try to put 100 homes here, how many kids are in this school already? How many kids are in that school? You know, that's stuff that all has to be factored into the equation. And like Mike did say, he is correct. Some of that was inherited when he was elected, as well as some of it was inherited when I was elected in 2012. But like I said, I'm going to go back to, again, case by case, smart growth, and you don't want to affect somebody with poor drainage. You know, just because you dig a big retention pond and say the water runs to that, it don't always run to that. So,
Mike, do you feel like that you've been able to, as you said, both of you said, inheriting developments that were already on the books, having to follow state law, having to follow ordinances that are already in place, so that some of that, your kind of hands are tied as a commissioner. How do you feel like maybe things need to change? Or what do you feel like you've done over these 4 years and feel like you could do for another 4 years to make changes that are going to be positive when it comes to trying to balance growth?
Well, let's use Moyock as an example because it is the fastest growing, you know, township that we have. One of the things I did was you can read reports, you can look at things, you can hear people talk. I went out and I walked the ditches with our folks, Will Creeve, before that Mike Doxey. I walked out with our solar and water conservation guys from the local and state areas to see what we can do to improve. We've gotten grants which help with the drainage. We've made it to where if you build a new subdivision, you cannot have any more water coming off their property than originally was. It actually has to be better. We also went in there and said, let's meet with these builders before they build, before they come there and ask for the permits and see what they want. So we can hopefully fix the problems before they come in front of us. So we can say, how do we take and slow it down? Or how do we take, and this subdivision has half-acre lots. Well, you're going to put 12 houses up against each half-acre lot. No. You're going to take and have responsible residential, so when he looks at his backyard, it's going to be somewhat similar. So we're getting the larger lots in there. That's helping. So neighbors are looking at the same size, so values stay the same. You know, but those are things because we are meeting, we are talking with these folks, we are looking out there, I am walking, you know, and you know, trying to figure out what we can do. And an important thing is, folks, keep talking to people. And he's right about property values. It's also, but you have to look at a landowner who owns land. That's his 401k. He has every right to sell his land to whoever he wants. But then once he sells it, we have to make sure that it doesn't affect his neighbors and the other folks that are coming into the county, or the folks that already live here in the county.
Drainage. That seems to be one of the biggest topics, not just here in Currituck, but throughout the region now, with the problems that Dare County's run into. Currituck has a unique situation because we're a wind tide. When the wind blows out of the south, the water fills the rivers, the creeks, the ditches, the yards. And when the wind blows out of the north, it's gone. How can the county, and how do you feel like as a commissioner over the next 4 years, can you influence policy? And I know state and federal regulations have a lot of this. How can you feel like you can influence things over the next 4 years to get these drainage issues taken care of in a timely manner that's going to protect people's properties?
Well, two things we've done. One, we went out and got a federal grant. With that, they're going to study what's going on. It's not going to be this long-term study. It's a short-term study and tells us what we can do and how we can do it that meets the state and the federal regulations. But again, walking out there with our soil and water folks from the state, going out there and realizing we have to clear the ditches, we have to maintain the ditches, we have to improve the right-of-way so we can go and do these things. But also, again, how many houses do we put on there? How do we take and put a pond, or how do we put another ditch? How does it connect? When the wind is, you're right, getting rid of the water. Stormwater ponds do a temporary, positive thing for neighborhoods, because at least holds it until the tide goes back to where it should. So that's how we increase it. Get out there and talk, get out there and walk, get out there and see what we can do and spend the money appropriately. Let's show that it can succeed. We have soil that's not the greatest when it comes to residential areas. That's an important thing. We have to be able to say, where is the water going and how can we influence it?
Kevin, do you feel like that getting back on the board, you can help influence that policy to a direction that's going to help folks that are having these issues? And would you, and I'll ask both of you this, I'm going to ask Kevin first, would you be in favor, we already have these soil and water districts, we already have these special tax districts that have been created to try and address this. Do you feel like that's maybe a solution that needs to be done? Because money obviously has to come from somewhere to help pay for these.
I mean, like I said, I'm going to go back to the case-by-case basis. I mean, as far as drainage, we have engineers that work for the county. That they go to college, they have degrees, and that's what that's what they do. I would use their expertise. Now, what he said about soil, I've lived here my whole life. We have some really, and it varies. You can go 2 miles. I've dug plenty of holes in this county planting some trees or planting some shrubs or building a fence. There's some soil where it's really sandy and good, and there's some soil where it's clay and it's, and sometimes, and everybody always says that, some of the builders will come in, they'll scrape off all the dirt and they'll haul some of that out of there, and then they don't put back in as good as dirt. I think there needs to be, we need to rely on our engineers, our departments that we pay these people. That's what their job is. If you ask me a question about, is it illegal to do this, I can answer every one of them all day long because I deal with law enforcement. Mike's retired law enforcement, so he probably can too, especially in Virginia. But I do think that, we need to rely on the expertise. I'm not an engineer, but, I can look at a piece of property and I can slope it with a tractor or a skid steer to drain off the proper way to where it needs to go. But it's bigger than just one 1 acre lot. It's a 100 acre lot for ponds, ditches, and so forth, There's studies, there's all kinds of stuff that, like I said, with the county engineer as well as these other different, engineering outfits where the rise and run, it's a science to it. And so.
All right, well, let's move on a little bit, residential growth and quality of life. Let's talk about the difference between the north and the south. Southern end of the county always has seemed to have been not so much neglected, but economically there's a big disparity between the amount of business, especially commercial development here in the north end of the county, that seems to now have started to explode in the south end of the county. How over the next 4 years, Mike, do you feel like you can balance what has happened in Moyock and spread that to the rest of the county to try and increase those economic opportunities?
I think it was already hit on perfectly. What we've done is this. In the south end of the county, we've always said we need businesses. What we need is tourism-related businesses mostly, because that's where the people are. They're going to Kitty Hawk, they're going to Dare, they're going to Southern Shores, they're going around to our Outer Banks, but they'll come around. So we need tourism-related business. We have a 4-lane highway, and we are slowly but surely getting businesses down there because they realize you can draw from many places. So that will actually increase the tax base because we have the businesses down there. So it already is happening. And yes, we have some things going on in Moyock, but it is shifting. So we're in the positive, but it's getting rid of the idea of rooftops. When we live on our residents, we live on our farmers, we live on a hunter and a fisherman, and we live on tourism. And it takes all four to balance that stool. And we haven't been doing a good job of taking care of businesses on the mainland. We're not looking for great white whales. We're not looking for the biggest businesses. We need businesses that will bring jobs, that will bring economic growth, that will not harm the businesses that we already have, but that will be tourist related, because that's where the money is, and that's where we're going to get the money.
Kevin, do you feel like that things have gone the way they need to go for the county over the last few years, or do you feel like there's more that could be done to get that economic disparity
Between South and North.
South and North?
I think the Mayock should have had a park. I mean, that's been on the books since 2010. I know I was actively working on that when I was a commissioner of District 4, which is Crawford, but basically is Mayock. I have a 27958 zip code, so I kind of count Mayock. The south end, the water park was a huge asset. I think they had a little over 100,000 people visit it last year in just those few months that it was open. It employed a lot of people. That's tax revenue, that's sales tax. That's, I mean, it's, your kid can work at a water park, or your kid can, not that anything's wrong with farming. I farmed when I was younger. So I mean, like I said, it gives a variance. I think the south end had a little bit of a drop in business and everything. I think it's starting to boom again. There's more building going. There's more businesses coming up on the south end. I think we need a hotel. I mean, we could put a hotel on the south end. I mean, why does Dare County get all the tax revenue and all the sales tax? And when we could have one right there, right by the water park. I know they're looking at some different plats. I've seen some of the stuff on that. And, I mean, like I said, as long as it's smart growth and how it affects your neighbor, good or bad, I think it needs to be looked at and build from that. But I think it kind of is like a spiral. Like, I think the South was neglected a little while, the North was neglected. I mean, it's kind of like Mike said before too, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected as an at-large, I work for all the citizens of the county, Knox Island, Corolla, Corova, everywhere. I like that better than just being assigned to a district.
Let's take it to another angle with the economic disparity between the North and the South. Talk about the housing disparity we have in Currituck, because we are in a situation now. Affordable housing is a huge topic throughout the world now, in the country, and specifically in northeastern North Carolina. Dare County has a lack of affordable housing, whether it's apartments and townhouses, that type of housing. There's nowhere to build them, it seems. Currituck, and this is a discussion that's been had, I say offline, but we've had this discussion with people in Dare County. Well, Currituck's got all this land. Why don't they build some stuff? Is that the proper solution to not only to help our neighbors to the south, but also to help Currituck and bring more affordable housing to residents who have really only two options, whether it's low grade, manufactured homes, or these stick built single family homes. We don't have townhouses, we don't have apartments. How do you feel like that can be balanced with what people want to see Currituck stay like?
When it comes to affordable homes or townhomes or whatever it might be, so those starting out that are young, or people that are coming into the area that are professionals that don't have families, we're Currituck. Yes, our neighbors to the south, they have land, and they chose not to build affordable housing or land for their workers. We should not be held accountable for their workers. We don't need to teach them, we don't need to feed them, we don't need to have to worry about getting fire and rescue service for them and police. That's their job. We need to take care of Currituck. Now, if we end up with some of their spillover, that's understandable, but they could end up with some of ours. They choose not to build it. We are looking at that. There is a possibility that we're trying some townhomes. We did them down behind Elon. We did it up here near the elderly home right there in Moyock. They're looking to put some townhomes to try and see how they work. So they are going, being done. But again, we're not responsible for our neighbors. We should work together, but they need to also do the same thing.
Kevin, do you feel like that Currituck's done what it can do, not only, as Mike said, for our neighbors to the north and south, but for residents here? Do you think there's ways that over the next 4 years, Currituck could allow that so that make it more affordable for people to live here?
You think about it. You have two teachers get a job hired here, and a teacher starts out, just say using the round numbers, $40,000 a piece for two of them is $80,000. That's good money, but if they're not going to be able to buy a $300,000 home. There's not the option for that. Most of the young teachers that work here in the county, and we have some good teachers. They live in Camden, they live in Elizabeth City, or they might rent a studio at the beach. I don't think we have that option, but I don't think, everybody says, hey, we need condos, hey, we need apartments, hey, we need townhomes, whatever it is, but nobody wants it in their backyard. I mean, that's one of the things you run into, like he touched on. I was on the board when the Elan thing came up. They're nice facilities, and I believe they have 20 some of them. I'm not sure the exact number, and they're top notch, and they're affordable if you have two guys or a young couple living there, as far as to rent, and they're nice. I don't know, that's something that needs to be addressed, where, some of the new homes where everybody's wanting to sell their land and put up, new homes, maybe that's something that's equated into it. You can get these 60 homes, but you're gonna do this part, on the front part of it, as well as with some commercial. I know they've discussed that where, you had some commercial, some residential to try to pump the commercial into the county. That's generating tax dollars. The residential's, cost and services.
I want to move on across the water. Just this last month, commissioners have approved spending occupancy tax dollars to fund Corolla Fire Services. At the same time, Knott's Island ran into the situation it did, and Currituck has had to come in and essentially become a professional fire department in Knott's Island. You're essentially having to start, and it's not, I know, truly a professional fire service in Corolla, but it's essentially that. You're having to have paid people on staff because of not being able to get the volunteers. Mike, how can I give you opportunity maybe to say justify is probably not the right word for it, but explain the process that went on there. And is this the future for Currituck? Is this future we're going to have to look at taking our fire services to the next step and making them a professional service?
I don't believe we're anywhere near that. Knott's Island and Corolla were two different reasons. Knott's Island because they were having a problem getting volunteers, Corolla because their volunteers were aging out. So there were two different reasons. They both asked for fire tax services, which means that those areas would pay for a tax, not the rest of the county, because Crawford, Moyock, we have Lower Currituck, they have viable departments that have enough volunteers that they're not needed. But sometimes to get people out there during the daytime volunteers, it's hard. So what we did was the money that they were spending for the contract in Knott's Island, some of that money now goes to pay for the paid firefighters that are there. Then you have the same thing in Corolla. We have a problem with this. We're going to take and we're going to use some of the money that would go to the contract to take care of this. The rest of it will be absorbed with a fire tax for those two areas. Startup cost for the occupancy tax, that was looked into because also those areas are tourist related areas. So some of the fire service that is required is a lot more than normally would be based on year-round residents. So some money has been used for that. But the majority of it will be on tax service that is to those areas specific and for the money that's used for their contracts. But I don't believe we're ready, and I don't think we're anywhere near going a county-wide fire service, and I hope we never get that way. Our volunteers, we could not afford the amount of volunteers and the hours that they give us. We could not afford it otherwise.
Kevin, looking on the outside, looking in, as a former commissioner and now outside while these decisions have had to be made over Knott's Island and Corolla, where do you think this was the right decision? Do you feel like this was the decision? Would you have done anything differently, you think?
I got the phone calls when Knott's Island didn't have, and I wasn't a commissioner, but I answered them and I helped them. Every citizen that lives in this county pays taxes, and they all pay the same tax rate. It's 48 cents. It don't matter if you live in Moyock or if you live in Grandy. So anybody that pays taxes should have the same services. When you said a professional fire department, you go to Moyock, every weekend they're training. You go to Crawford, every weekend they're training. I know when I was on the board previously, my insurance, because I lived in Crawford, went down because of their rating was better. Our volunteer fire department says, go to a wreck, I go to them, being a deputy. I work criminal investigations, but I still sometimes assist with wrecks, and they got people. But like Mike said, Corolla, a lot of the guys were getting aged out. Knott's Island, they just didn't have the people on the island that typically were there. Some of them moved, but they all deserve fire services. They all pay taxes. I think what they did with Knott's Island by sending the other crew over there and not many, I don't even think any of the commissioners would know this. Currituck County, we take a ton of EMS calls for the Blackwater, the Creeds area, and in return we get fire services from Creeds. Those guys are almost always there, and I'm not knocking the Knott's Island Fire Department. Those guys are almost always there first. It's so close to Knott's Island anyway, and they have paid fire. That part of it's not broke. But I do think when they sent the other 2 guys and you had 4 over there every day instead of 2 paramedics, EMTs, whatever the certification was, you had 4 people that could drive a couple fire trucks as well as an ambulance to a fire scene, and then you had creeds there as well. The Corolla part of it, you know, I mean, like you said, I know they pay a special, like you said, fire service, whatever the tax, they pay a few cents more, and you know, if it's a vacation home, I don't think the people mind paying it. So I mean, I get that, and I know a couple of the guys that were hired full-time fire over there, some really trained professionals that I've worked wrecks with, I've worked calls with, through emergency services. So like I said, I think the mainland's awesome. They do a great job, our volunteer program. Let a wreck happen on, hopefully it doesn't, on the main highway, and see how many vehicles and how many volunteers we have and how quick they're there. So I don't see it, like he said, I don't see it happening in 10 to 20 years, maybe 30. And I know what we pay each fire department, you know, we get a lot of service for what we pay for.
Another issue that's starting to become apparent on the Outer Banks is beach nourishment, the shrinking beachfront. Dare County's just gone through basically widening every beach from Duck to Nag's Head, and then of course Avon is their next step, and they've got issues there. Now it seems that beach erosion is really starting to become a factor, and I know discussions are starting. Is this the time, is it in the next 4 years, do you feel like the time's now to start planning for this, to using the similar model that Dare County has, using a portion of their occupancy tax to set aside to a beach nourishment fund, and then of course they've had to raise property taxes in the towns to pay for it. Is this something that you see, Mike, over the next 4 years is going to be an issue, and do you feel like you could support that?
One of the things that I did was when I was talking to a bunch of the folks over in Knott's Island, in Corolla, I went out and walked the beaches after the storms, and I saw what was happening. And I started talking to the folks at Pine Island, I started talking to the folks at other places, and what I found was they had done some studies. So when we did our retreat back in January, I brought it up as a question of, do we need to start looking at this? And I thought we did. And now we have had discussions with those. We have looked at their studies. We've realized that it's not as bad as everybody thinks it is, because we get the winter storms, it takes some away. Then we get sand that comes down from Virginia, and then some of it comes back. So their studies need to be 2 to 3 years, and that's what we're looking at now. We're going to be putting money in with them. We're going to look at their studies, we're going to look at ours, and we may have to look at that as a viable option. But we're not at that point yet to where we can say we have to do it all the way or just portions of our beach. Would we like to have wider beaches? Yes, we would. But the cost is tremendous, and will the sand stay? That's the next problem. It's happened in other places where they've gone in with beach nourishment and it's gone. But should we be looking at it? Yes, and we are. And it should continue and should be funded, the studies, until we decide at that point, 2 to 3 years down the road. But be prepared, if we're going to study it, and 2 and 3 years down, if it says it, we need to start then. So yes, we are planning it.
Kevin, you feel like that the county's making the proper progress on this topic with the beach nourishment, or you feel like it should go in a different direction?
If you fail to plan to fail. I mean, the old saying. I don't think, you know, I mean, like you said, the occupancy tax, I mean, you can advertise, come to Corolla all over the place. But if you don't have no beach for them to ride on, they're not going to come to Corolla. So I do think that it needs to be studied. I do think there needs to be money set aside. You can have we had so many nor'easters this year alone that just tore up people's docks. I mean, tore up people's piers. You know, those little nor'easters doing all that damage in the sound. Now let's throw the angry Mother Nature, the ocean, in there. So like I said, I do think it's very important that they need to set money aside. You know, I don't know what the dollar amount is, but I do think that they need to do that, because if we don't have the beach, or the beach is a lot smaller, you know, they're not going to come here. They're going to go to Ocean City. They're going to go to Savannah. They're going to go somewhere else. And, you know, our beach is unique because you can drive on it. So you need sand to drive on it. I think, like you said, they need to proper studies, and, you know, save for a rainy day. You have 4 or 5 bad nor'easters in 1 month, you could wipe out huge areas of the beach.
Final question. Regional cooperation, not just to the south, but to the west. Currituck is on the verge of becoming essentially a leader of the next decade, the next 2 decades, because of the population that we have. The largest unincorporated area in all of North Carolina. Now with 75% of the population being non-native born outside the state of North Carolina. But it seems that there's I would say a disconnect, but it seems that the regional cooperation that would be key to getting with the Northeast and what Currituck needs in Raleigh just isn't quite there. How do you feel like in the next 4 years, Mike, you could expand that to make things better for Currituck and its relationship with the rest of the state?
When I came on board, I can say that regionalism didn't exist very well at all. And one of the things we did was we decided it wasn't acceptable. We said, we're going to Raleigh, we're going to meet with our neighbors, we're going to take and meet with our folks in DC. We're going to find out what it's going to take for us to be on the map. We were ignored, Northeast North Carolina, but now we work together. We have done tremendous things with our neighbors. One of them, let's use the Currituck Bridge, Mid-Currituck County Bridge. We didn't have enough points to put it back on it when they took it off the map. Well, guess what, folks? It got put back on the map because our neighbors loaned us bonus points that they had for road projects. And because they loaned us those things, we also qualified for a $100 million bonus that can be used on roads other than the bridge, thanks to our neighbors in Currituck. So regionalism doesn't exist for just a Department of Transportation. When it comes to insurance, we've met with Mike Causey, we've met with some other folks up there to say, why is it that Raleigh pays less for insurance on homes than we do? Why is it they have more claims than we do? Why is it that they pay less on anything than we do? Well, folks, we got some answers. They weren't pretty, but it's because the potential is always there for this catastrophic storm to come in and take us out. It hasn't happened. So we need to, keep arguing with the folks at Raleigh, lower our taxes, lower our insurance rates, let us have our roads, because a road project gets funded quickly in Raleigh or Fayetteville or Durham, wherever it might be. We're the last of the guys. We get the smallest piece of the pie. But it's because we have been doing regionalism. We have been working with our neighbors that has changed over the last 4 years, and it's getting better every time. We also need our representatives in Raleigh to come out here more often. Well, in my 4 years, we've had the governor here multiple times. He had never been here before. We've had our state representatives here more than I think ever before. We've had our national representatives here more than ever before. So we are on the map, folks. We're getting better. They see us. Currituck matters. So do our neighbors. We're a region. Watch out for us.
Kevin, you feel like that that regional cooperation can get better in the next 4 years if you're elected?
Yeah, it's all about networking. I can talk to anybody. I can talk to that picture frame for 10 minutes and it might even talk back to me. I do feel that we're being punished. All the money goes to Wake. It goes to Wake and Mecklenburg. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I know it all goes there. And I know we're being punished still from the, and I'm going to say this, and I like the man, he was a good guy, we're still being punished from the Mark Bass Knight era, which he did a lot of great things for Currituck County, and the people in Raleigh, and Dare as well, the people in Raleigh are still, we do need top-notch representatives for this area. The governor, Cooper, I was at a training in Dare County last year, and he came down. He's been here a couple times, as well as when McCord was a governor. But you need a voice, and you need somebody that'll stand up. I'll stand up for anything, and I'm not afraid of anything. So, you need somebody that can network, that has a lot of contacts. I have contacts everywhere in the state, through law enforcement, through various other means. But I think it's gotten better in the last 5 to 6 years, probably. Some, I know, and I'm not going to say a certain candidate's name or anybody's name, but I know that they've spoke up for Currituck County. And like I said, it's Dare County usually gets a little more than us, and that needs to change. We're growing too. And we have a lot to offer. Dare County don't have a water park. We do. You can't ride on the beach in Dare County. You can in Hatteras, but you can in our beach. So we have a lot to offer, and like I said, proper representation, as well as somebody who's not afraid to stand up to whoever it is. And hey, why aren't we getting this? I'm not gonna be offended. I'm not gonna say this, but I'm not gonna I don't think you should have to kiss kiss tail to be able to get something here that we deserve. Currituck's growing, and Currituck generates a lot of money to the state of North Carolina, and it's probably why North Carolina's, I think, the 7th fastest growing state out of 50. And Currituck's one part of that, as well as, you know, you go to Corolla. Me and you went to high school together. You go to Corolla. When we went to Corolla, we were in high school. There was, 10 businesses, maybe, tops, and there was nobody there. It was less than 100 homes. Go to Corolla now, there's 100 homes in multiple subdivisions. It's growing. And because it's, you know, it's such a beautiful place to go to. I mean, why, you know, so. But I think proper representation is the main thing that we need, and somebody that will stand up. All right, in closing, I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate your time, Sammy, for taking on the day to interview us as well as ask us questions. Like I said, why I feel I'm the better candidate. I've lived here longer. I know the people. They respect me. They trust me. They call me. Even though I haven't been a commissioner for 4 years, I still get the phone calls, and I still help the people. And I'm not getting the paycheck. And I don't do it for the paycheck. I live here. I love it here. My kids live here. I'm not going anywhere. My sister lives here. My father lives here. I care about some things, and there's some things that I didn't like in the directions that we're going. So you can do one or two things. You can complain about it, or you can do something about it. So I decided to do something about it because I was getting a lot of phone calls, people asking me to run, and so I put my name in there. And I appreciate your support, and Currituck County needs McCord on the board. I'll end with that.
Mike?
My name is Mike Hall. I've been here for 18 years. My family has been here longer. My daughter went through the school system here. She's getting ready to finish her master's. My wife is here. We made her home. I'm a former law enforcement officer, 34 years. I went into the corporate world, so I've had budgets that are in the millions of dollars. I've been, in 4 years, I've been responsible, I've been accessible, and that's what you need, consistent leadership. I didn't come down here to be a politician. I came down here, I was enjoying life, offering, hey, to talk to folks, be part of the community. I sat on several boards, small area plan for Moyock, the beach driving area. I looked at problems that we had and said, what can I do to help? Tell me and I'll do it. And that's what I started out doing. And I didn't like the direction that this board was taking when I decided to run 4 years ago. But since then, folks, you can reach out to me anytime. You've been able to call me. You've been able to email me. You run into me at many places. I get joked all the time. My half-hour trip was an hour and a half because I talk to folks. I go out and I walk. I don't just read about problems. I go out and visit with the people who have the problems. That's another thing you need. Somebody who has the time to do these things. Not just read about it, but go out and see exactly what you're talking about. And if you want somebody like that, vote me in for 4 more years. I've kept your taxes low. I've looked at diversifying our tax base. And I've looked at every area in Currituck. I've been accessible, whether it's Corolla, Corolla, Knott's Island, Lower Currituck, or Moyock. Any of those, even Grandy. People forget about Grandy. Grandy is the center of our county. We need to stand together, folks. We are Currituck, and I'm the guy that leads you, for the next 4 years.
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate it.
All right.